Hello, my name is Johan Falk. I work at NodeOne Scandinavia. Here's the timer. Uh, Previous screencast I didn't quite manage to get below 10 minutes because there were a few seconds more. That might help now. This is the Learn Drupal library. Cool stuff here, mainly concerning configuration and site building. You find a lot of the stuff in the Drupal 7 The Essentials book, available at Amazon.com and other Amazon stores. It has now been ordered as a Kindle book as well. I don't know when it will be ready. Right, in this screencast number 6 in the Learn the Rules framework screencast series, we're going to look at what's called components in rules, which is a pretty important part of configuring advanced rule stuff, which you will have to do pretty soon when starting to use rules. When we have covered this, we have the basics, and I think we'll spend a few screencasts on just creating example rules. That will be useful. Alright, components then. Why use components? Well, we saw here in the rule in the previous screencast that we have a pretty complex condition here. Well, could be much more complex. This is for checking that something is promoted to the front page but it wasn't already on the front page. If you want to use the same condition in several places, it might be messy to have to have to configure all of this at the same time, well, over and over and over again. A better approach is to, let's see, configuration, workflow, rules, components. To add a component that encapsulates all of these settings. So we could do something like this. We have no components right now, but I can add one, and I can add one of the 5 available component plugins. These are, as the word plugin suggests, pluggable, so you can create your own component thingies and use with rules if you have some neat ideas of how to do that. I could create a condition set and, which means that all the conditions in this should be fulfilled. Content is but was not on the front page, I can call this. Tags, let's not use tags. And here is something really cool, variables, sometimes called parameters as well. That is the data sent into this component, used for evaluating the conditions. In this case, we need a saved and an unsaved node. So we need, well, we select which kind of data we should send in here. We have the primary data types that rules use. And we have the entities provided through the entity API module. And then we can also have lists of all these kinds of data. We want a node. I give it a label called saved content node. I'm just going to call that, and then I want another node as well, unsaved content node unsaved. Right, if I continue here, I get a mini interface for just configuring a condition. So I'm going to mimic this right off. I'm going to add a condition, node is promoted to front page, node content is promoted to front page. Right now I have these two, I misspelled this one, crap. I have these 2 nodes available, and that's the only content, the only data I have available inside this component, except for the global data containing this site thingy. And that's because this that's the only information available to this component. It can be called from wherever on the site, as long as as long as it's called with 2 node objects. These are the ones. Saved content should be promoted front page. Then I can add an OR group within this component, even though it's called an AND group. That's just a wrapper and. Add a condition here. Either the content should be new. Entity is new, yeah. Which one? The saved content new. or another condition here, it was not already on the front page. The unsaved should not be on the front page, like that. Alright, now I have a component. Let's go back to the components overview. I have a component here. Inside my rules that I'm configuring, I can just delete all of this. Delete. Let's see if I can delete this. Yes, I could. Sometimes if you have wrapper things like the OR group here, you cannot delete it until it's empty. That's particularly true for loops, I guess, and because the loops contains the individual items often. Yeah, technical matters. Alright, now I can add a condition here, and right at the bottom I have components. And I can call this component I just created, and I have two pieces of data that I should send to it: the saved content and the unsaved contentee. And I'm going to send in the saved content as saved content and the unchanged content as the unsaved contentee. Save. Right. Now this is good from a number of perspectives. This reuses configuration, which is just so good. This makes it much more easy to see what happens here before saving content. If content is but was not on the front page, then show a message on the site and send message to administrators if you want to do that. That's useful. That's handy when you configure rules. But we have a number of other benefits as well. Number one is that components can be exported individually, which is kind of useful if you are into exporting configuration on your site, which you should be. It is also really useful when adding new conditions, because if we have, say, a loop here within actions, we want to perform something on each item, say each tag or each user listed in a user reference field, but only if that user something. Now we can't add conditions within the actions because all the conditions have already been evaluated. Instead then we add a component here that is a rule in itself that contains both conditions and actions, and then we send along the user that we're iterating through right then in the loop to the rule, perform some conditions, and if appropriate some actions as well. Very useful. Action sets are very similar to rule sets, but they don't have to rules components, but they don't have any conditions. That's not very often something you use. Basically only for if you have some action sets that are used over and over again. Rule sets may be useful if you want to have, well, if you for some reason always have a few rules that you execute in sequence, then a rule set is a better choice, because they are basically just a set of rules executed after each other. Right. I'm just going to show you one more thing about this action set here. Let's continue. Example action set. We can execute, let's try that actually. Maybe. Yes, okay, we can even execute conditions here. We can execute them manually. And we can here, well, this is kind of difficult, have a data selector. Time is almost out. I can input node 2 here and say node 3 here and execute, and then we'll see what we get. Was evaluated to false. That can be useful, especially when debugging and doing things like that. Right, cool. Important things here are you can create components to reuse configuration and to make it easier to export configuration. Components have variables that you send to the component when you evaluate it. And that's kind of it. See you in the next screencasts, which I think will be examples. Bye.